Welcome to The Human Experience, a podcast about the stories we live out every day and the importance of championing the vulnerability and courage of the storyteller. I'm your host, Jennifer Peterkin, and it was through my own lived story of experiencing domestic violence that this podcast was created. By traveling the globe and interviewing each guest in person, I am convinced now more than ever that stories have the power to change the world. You can join our community of storytellers by subscribing, leaving a rating and review, signing up for my newsletter, following me on Instagram, and more. Thank you for being here. In a world full of noise, to listen with intention is an act of resistance. Episode 53 of The Human Experience is Andarge's story. Interviewing Andarge was, in a word, fun. Her energy, sense of humor, and liveliness made it clear why she's been successful in radio and podcasting. While she clearly likes to joke around, she's also tackling some incredibly interesting and deep topics on her show, Take It Off, where she discusses the intersection of fashion and social justice. Having been in radio since college, her passion for the craft is clear. She loves what she does. Add to that her love of fashion and the desire to make a difference in her community, Andarge has found a fascinating niche. You can find links to Andarge's show in the show notes. This episode was recorded in Savannah, Georgia. Okay, so...
Are we going to... Oh, by the way, sorry. Are we going to let the audience know this is our take 2?
I think you're just letting them know right now.
Oh, sorry to spill the beans.
No, it's okay.
It was my fault. Backstory. So she came in here and I was like, why would you use your equipment? We have these fancy equipments. They spend thousands of dollars on it. Don't even worry about it. We started ranting. We went past an hour. This man comes in who smelled amazing. And he was like, he's just looking at us like, it's my time to shine now.
Yeah.
So I was rushing, getting us out of the studio. Once I did that, it had actually gone onto his equipment. And he deleted it.
Did you get in touch with him?
I did.
Yeah.
He was like, sorry. Not sorry. And then actually, even after that, like we had ranted for over an hour. We went in the back studio. We stayed here until 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're doing this again.
Take 2. That's okay. I was actually worried how it was going to sound coming from this like super awesome professional equipment to my equipment that goes on the road with me. So has to be like economical and affordable, and she can't even touch her mic stand.
I'm sorry. No, it's so I want to lean back. Wait, what if I take this off?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just talk like this.
That's
great. Is this too much?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. As long as you're comfortable, I am comfortable.
I'm so not used to this. This is really exciting. I was telling her we have another space over here that we don't use, and I want to turn it into a podcast studio space.
Yeah.
Just get these mics because I think this is really efficient. If you're mad at it, I guess it's like so. And you can really hear all the noises, the sniffs, the coughs. This is perfect for it. You can't really do that with these other mics.
Yeah. Yeah, those are nice. You can, because they swivel, so you can do pretty much anything to them and it's not going to affect the sound.
Yeah.
Which I am jealous of because people start talking with their hands and then they get like really impassioned and they start like hitting the desk and I can hear it and I'm like, I don't want to interrupt their story.
Tell them, hey, gentle. We can, or do
chastise them.
Yeah.
Hey,
find them.
Yeah. That's $10 per slap.
And it's going towards my podcast.
Yeah. That's actually how I end up making money off of this podcast.
We talked about Joe Rogan last time, but I have to go back again because I heard a rumor that he can charge guests because he's that big.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And I was like, I want to get to that level. But I wouldn't do it to every guest. I would, if they had an interesting story, that's cool. It's just once they start getting boring, I'd want to like put on a timer.
I feel like if it's for self-promotion, right? So that's when you're talking about your own guests and we have it. Should we like go to now and move backwards or where do you want to start?
Oh my goodness. Which way? We can start today and go back to yesterday. So today I am a podcast host and a radio host of the Take It Off fashion podcast. I talk about fashion and social issues. For example, British Vogue, they just came out with their first edition of Braille, and they're the first Vogue to ever do that. We also covered earlier this year, Australia had an Indigenous Fashion Week. We also cover like the raunchy stuff of fashion as well too. The first Black male editor of British Vogue just got the boot. And there was like a little bit of rumors with him and Anna Wintour. So we get into fun stuff too. So it gets a little bit messy, but then we also get into other social issues like how guns affect America. Can you dress feminine in the workplace and still be taken seriously? Short shorts on males.
Interesting.
I personally think that it's a reflection of where we are in society. Sexuality is so fluid now, and you're seeing men wear more feminine things, but it's not being considered feminine like it was a few years ago.
Right.
Even the pearl necklaces, even the long dangly earrings, that's considered more androgynous. And I think we'll continue to see more of that. Short shorts were popular in the 70s and the 80s. Those were really short. I don't know if we'll ever go back there again.
Never say never.
I don't mind. Listen, I don't know if that makes me sound like a pervert, but I'm on like 6 years clean now.
Yeah.
Not, I don't like clean, but 6 years cool now.
It's one of those things that you do truly make your relationships around if that's what you
your
do.
thing. Yeah. You would be surprised. All of my friends, I have not friends with a single person from college. I didn't even and I didn't intentionally cut them off. It was just our habits were different.
Yeah. You're not going out to bars on the weekend or at night. And they're not coming over for
tea.
That is a shame.
I know, because I make really good tea, Thai tea. Actually, I should sell my recipe. But I've gotten really good at tea and coffee now.
We'll link to your Etsy shop at the end of this episode.
Thank you for helping me out. That is the one thing I really want to start doing. I've been on radio for years and started doing my podcast. I have no merch.
Yeah, you need merch.
I know.
Do you have a catchphrase?
Take it off. I say take it off, and I say tweed whore a lot.
Tweed whore?
Yeah, I love tweed. And
tweed.
Yeah, but I don't think people would catch that, and I don't think they would want to wear a shirt that says whore on it.
Well,
unfortunately,
it depends on your following. There are some pretty crazy T-shirts out there, and if you get people saying something enough,
they'll do it.
Yeah,
you have merch.
I do.
Okay, never mind. That was like I do?
No, I do. It's I had done some hats, so that's all it is. But
okay.
Yeah.
See, my head is too big. I can't even do a hat, but
then your bun can't go to the sky. So.
I know. Tear. I was thinking maybe I could do like a jacket.
Nice.
But that requires like one more thing I have to do on top of editing.
Yeah.
On top of social media, on top of a full-time job. Ugh.
I know. I hear you. Yeah. I am there. All right. So you have a podcast that is also played on the radio. It's the same show. We're in Savannah.
We are in Savannah. Good 912.
You have this job in radio that you actually really enjoy right now, and you work for the radio station.
Yeah.
As well as having this show. But that wasn't your first foray into radio. So how did you get into radio?
Oh, okay. Yes. Now we're going backwards. I feel like I skipped a step to go back. So before I had Take It Off, I had another show called OE with the Andarge, and it was objective elective. I had another coach. She was like a holistic coach. Mm-hmm. We talked about this. She talked about holistic vegetables.
Yeah.
This was difficult. Not because her information wasn't good or valuable, only because I don't know how to talk about leaves for an hour.
And this is in your OE.
OE with the Andarge. So I'm really getting guests from all walks of life.
And it's supposed to be about debate.
Yeah. Basically, I can talk about anything.
Then, yeah, like how do you debate somebody that's talking about vegetables?
I cannot.
That is the point.
Yeah. And she was very healthy and very lovely. And she won
She won. Good job.
So it's been an up and down ride. But how I got to the fashion one was because I had the senior Guardian come on. And I'm sorry, the senior fashion writer at the Guardian. And then, yeah, I would say real guest was this gun professor from New York. And we talked about how guns impact fashion.
Please tell me more about that.
Yes. He was talking about the NRA and how over 90% of gun owners are men. The NRA is not a fan of that. They want more women to own guns. So they've held gun fashion shows. They've made guns smaller. They've made the colors pink, even selling bulletproof backpacks, which those, as we all know, unfortunately, is on the market and is in demand. And even talking about how guns have had an impact in the fashion industry. Some years they like it, some years they don't. It used to be really sexy, like wearing it on the thighs. Now, I think the whole image of a woman with guns is a little bit different. I think when you think of a woman with gun, it's usually someone who's rural or someone who loves America. And it's not really an everyday woman. Saying that you're a woman who owns a gun, it automatically puts you in a box. And before, it wasn't like that. And I think they want to change that. They want to make it more accessible to everyone. Just a little bit scary.
Yeah.
So we got into the nitty gritty of that.
Yeah, it's funny how perception does change that. And I never would have thought that guns and fashion had an intersection, but that makes a lot of sense now that you say it.
They so do. There's so many other things that have intersections. Like even Jeremy Scott, who was the creative director for Moschino for years, he was wearing like a no guns shirt in one of his fashion shows. People in the fashion industry have talked about it. It just swings back and forth. So it's never a set in stone thing, but it does. And it impacts our everyday life too.
Definitely. And I think it's also, we have to be careful with stuff like that too, because we have such a heightened fascination with celebrity culture. And I feel like fashion can go hand in hand with that on some levels. I'm not super into fashion, so I don't pretend.
You're not into fashion?
Not
so you think that
super
you picked that black shirt today?
Listen, all I'm saying is that...
Do you think that you really picked out that Apple Watch?
That you would know more than I would. But from what I can see and observe, sometimes the fashion industry is tied with celebrity culture, right? So like everyone wants to talk about ethics in something, but they're really just doing whatever is in the moment that's going to sell.
Yeah. And there are so many things that are happening in fashion that really do touch on everyday life. I think because it has the word fashion in it, people just push it off as something that's materialistic. It doesn't really apply to them, especially people who are not in fashion but wear Apple Watches. Do you know that Anna Wintour wears an Apple Watch? And she is like arguably the queen of fashion.
Wow. I didn't say that I didn't. I said I wasn't super into fashion.
I'm just teasing.
Anyway, how did you get into fashion? Like, why is this something that you even wanted to talk about?
I didn't know that I wanted to talk about it. I have always been super obsessed with fashion. I think it really started off as a little kid. I am an only child, and I spent I only grew up with my mom. So I spent several hours a day by myself constantly. And I really felt insecure as a kid, interacting with other kids about my kind of social skills. And so I would just watch television, watch America's Next Top Model. And I would spend hours and hours in my mom's closet going thrifting before it was cool, guys. But this is when thrifting was just for the poor. And I would go to school and people would recognize my outfits and they would come up to me and I didn't have to approach them. And then I started feeling confident that, okay, It's not about my looks. This is about my fashion. This is something that I have control over. So even if I can't control my environment at home, this is something that I have sovereignty over, and I'm going to really lean into it. So I started drawing when I was younger. I really thought that I was going to be a fashion designer. And as you get older, you start to do that thing where you compare yourself to other kids. And I knew some people who were going to FIT, and I would get so jealous because I was like, oh, they can't even draw. They're only going because their parents are rich. And get into that negative mindset. And I was like, I don't even want to do fashion anyways. Who cares? So I get to college, and even after college, when I got my first big radio job, I was working at Intercom, which is the second largest radio station in the country. People would know me for my outfits. And I always made that a thing. Like I might not be the smartest kid in the class or the wealthiest or the most charming, but I'm going to be the stylish and the most stylish. And it wasn't really until that lady, when I had an interview with her, where I was like, oh, I can talk about this for hours and days and weeks. I want to see who else is doing this. Before I actually started to do it, I was looking at other podcasts, and I was like, oh my God, I can do this better than them. And I was like, I can do this. And so I really got into it. No shade. There's some that I really like. And I've had a few fashion podcast guests come on my show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's really all love. And I've been on their show as well, too. So it's been a journey, though.
For sure.
Like, even this year when I was telling you, organizing my first fashion show ever. My goodness.
Yeah. So that was, I feel like we are all over the map here.
We really are.
But that's okay. I'm gonna draw the line because we're gonna go back eventually. But since you brought up the fashion show, I do want to talk about it. So you have your podcast / radio show, Take It Off. You work at a local radio station in Savannah.
Yes.
And as part of an anniversary for you, correct? You did this fashion show, which, by the way, I went to Agatha's Tea House today.
You did?
I'm obsessed with it.
So
oh my
cute,
gosh.
right?
I would love to live there.
She's adorable.
I loved it. I didn't realize it was connected to King Oliver's.
Yes, it's the same owners.
Yeah.
And so the outside area, we cleaned up all that stuff, put a stage, all the decorations. That's where we had everything.
Okay.
Agatha's is where the models changed. You saw how tiny it was.
Yes.
So 30 models, very chaotic.
30 models?
30 models.
Oh my gosh.
Chaos. And then King Oliver's is where we had the vendors.
Okay.
So it was a madhouse, but it was fun. Everyone had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy you went to them. I really love them. I'm probably going to work with them again.
I loved it in there. So before I even came to Savannah, I was looking around at like places I knew I wanted to pop into. And that was one of the first things that came up. And I was like, this looks amazing. This looks exactly like a kind of place that I would want to hang out. And what if it's not what it looks like online, whatever. When I walked in today, I was like, I wish I had all day to sit here because this is fabulous.
It's so sick. And did you see the palm reader? Was she out? I don't know if she was there.
No,
day.
She wasn't there.
Okay. They have a palm reader there. And she was going to read palms the day of the show. But she came and she was like, this is a madhouse.
I cannot do this in this condition. So tell me about the fashion show, how it came about and all of that.
So I have been in Savannah for 3 years now. And just coming up on my 3-year anniversary a few months ago, I was like, I've been here for almost 3 years. I've been to so many fashion shows. I've done so many things. I want to do something to really give back to the community. And we are technically a community radio station. So I was like, I went up to them and I was like, let's do a fashion show. Let's make it all locals, designers, vendors, sponsors, never doing that again. Let's do it. And they were like, okay, we're games, but you have to find everybody and you have to do everything. And okay. A lot more challenging than I thought. There was days where we weren't selling any tickets, weeks where we weren't selling any tickets. And there were times where people had dropped out. It was just too much work for them. And even 3 days before, our creative director had dropped out. And so we had to find 3 creative directors to take over the show who had they had never even met the designers or the models. And they were like, we're game, put us in. I was so impressed. I was so happy with the results. Also, when you're doing something of this magnitude, there's always going to be the unexpected. And you never know what you don't know. And there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I didn't know. Some drama was happening too a few days before. So we were like, now we need security guards. How are we going to find security guards? So we're asking people the day of, we're trying to move heavy things. I see a man walk by and I go, hey, I'll buy you wings if you can lift this for us. He was like, really? Can I bring my homeboy? He's 10 minutes from here. I was like, okay. Didn't see him again for 20 minutes. I was like, he's not coming back. Comes back with the guy. They lift everything. We're talking. We're telling them about the event. And they're like, we can help if you need something. And I was like, we need security. Oh, we don't really carry anything. But they had neck tattoos. So that was good enough for me. And I was like, you don't need to touch anyone. You just have to look scary. And that will work. So I got them involved. I asked my roommates, hey, can you be doormen? They were cool with it. I had to reduce rent. But they were cool with it. And ultimately, a lot of volunteers showed up the day of who, for weeks, I was emailing, can you help us? Can you help us? The day of, they're like, we're game. What can we help with?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is everything. And my family had came down from DC. They've never been to Savannah.
Wow.
Yeah, just for that. My boyfriend had came down from DC. And so,
wait, your boyfriend lives in DC?
Yeah. So
I did not realize that.
Yeah. So we met in Savannah, but then he got a job in DC.
No way.
Yes. And he was like, I can turn it down. I can stay here. I was like, no, you can't. The salary in DC is not like the salary in Savannah. You better take that job. And so we'll just make it work long distance. And so that's what we've been doing. And it hasn't been bad. We've been visiting each other every month, but I think it could obviously be better.
Sure.
If we had more time. But again, I'm not really in a rush. So I'm content.
Yeah.
And even with this fashion show, I really want to do it again. Like I talked to everyone afterwards, like the lighting director, the sound guy, everyone. I was like, how did you feel about this? They were like, it was crazy, but I would do it twice.
Okay.
And I was like, yes. Those are the people you need. When you have any type of crazy, wild dream, you need someone who's just going to enable you, who's going to be like, I don't care what it is. I'll help you with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you get it done, ultimately. There's no blueprint. You can't read a book about it. Just go and do it. Trial and error is your best teacher.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You had a successful event, which is great.
I didn't make any money, by the way. I'll just say that. All the money I raised went to the station.
Yeah.
But next time, it'll be different.
Yeah.
Would you ever do a reality TV show?
It would depend on the type of reality TV.
What kind would you do?
I would do a travel show.
I knew you were going to say something. What is it called? It's like with Whoopi Goldberg.
The View?
The View. Anyways, so then I was walking on campus and I saw this college radio station. I went in, talked to the director, was like, I'd love to work for you, love a job. He's like, we're not even hiring. And also, you're not even in the communications department. So no. I was like, okay. So I went back the next day with cupcakes and I was like, hey, remember me. Love to work for you. I know you're not hiring. Maybe I could shadow you for free. I don't mind. I think he was just like, she's not going to go away. So let me just say, okay. So he said, okay. So I shadowed him for 6 or 7 months for free. And when he left, his position opened up. The president of the station was like, okay, you were literally the only person he recommended. We don't need to interview you. Do you want the job? And I was like, okay. And they paid me and I could set my own hours. I was sold.
Yeah.
So by the time I graduated, I knew I'm not going to use this freaking degree.
Yeah.
So I had worked for that really big radio station for 2 years. COVID happened. They laid off our whole department. I was really depressed. Moved back in with my parents for 6 months. Felt incredibly motivated to find a job during those 6 months. And I found a job, a radio job here in Savannah. Told him a whole lie. Like, my father lives here. He lives in the South. My father lives in Atlanta. Okay, it's 4 hours away from here. And I was like, so I just want to be closer to him, spend more time with him. I still have not seen him in the 3 years I've lived. Yeah. But
He didn't come to your fashion show?
No, I did invite him. So yeah, that's the thing with me and my dad. My dad he always wants to be involved in my life, but I'm very like, okay, if you want to be involved, you have to be like on a schedule. Okay, like once a Sunday, you can call me and we can talk for an hour or something. He'll call me every single day. Oh my God, did you see that game today? And it's like, I set boundaries. He thinks boundaries are a suggestion. So no, I did not tell him. And I was really upset when someone did tell him that I lived in Savannah because he's talking about visiting me. And I was like, no.
Oh, you don't want him to come visit you?
No, I don't know. I do not want him to know where I live. He will never leave.
Okay.
So I like our phone relationship.
Yeah.
Like he came to visit me as a kid and my mom they had divorced, but she was like, you can stay at the house, save money on a hotel. I think a week had gone by. She was like, don't you have to go back to your job? He was like, I just want to spend time with my daughter.
Yeah.
And she was like, he would try to take me out of school to go play.
Oh, wow.
Let's go to a restaurant or let's go to Chuck E. Cheese. And my mom was like, are you kidding me? This is our education. And so that he's just always been like that. And so so I got the job. Hated this job.
Not the one you have now.
No,
the job you moved to Savannah for.
Yeah, hated that job. I had been working 7 days a week. I had worked Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And I went to my boss and I was like, hey, also I was making like less than $30,000 a year. We had a college radio station. It was in the student union. I don't know why, but one day I saw it and I was like, I don't want to be like you. You only make $10,000 more than me. And you've been here for an eternity. No, thank you. And so I came up with a plan that all of the programming we do from our computer. So I was like, oh, there's something wrong with my computer. And I had job applications up. So I came and I showed it to her. I assumed that she would see the job applications and be like, okay, she's a hard worker. Let me give her a raise. She saw it and was like, let me fire her. Because she's applying to other jobs. And when she did it, I'm not even going to act like I was so bold. I was like practically on my knees. I was begging. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like radio jobs, it's always layoffs and I'm just trying to be prepared. It just showed up on my email. I don't even care about that job. I don't even know who they are. I've never even heard of that station. I love this station. This is the world to me. She was not buying any of it. She was done. I was like, okay, thank you. Goodbye. So I didn't want to go back home because at that point I had been in Savannah less than a year. I was like, this is too embarrassing. Let me try to find something here. So I had found a big girl job and then I had found this station. So this station, I would say, really helped me out. And I've been in this city ever since just because of this station. I don't even know if they know that. You guys should thank me. Seriously.
It's coming, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, they really have. They always go out of their way to thank me and support me. So that's been really nice.
Good. I'm glad that you found a home in this station.
Yeah. And it's really, I've gotten so many opportunities because of this station. I got to the whole Atlanta Sustainable Fashion Week. Being a moderator was because I was working here. Interviewing Janelle Monáe, Miles Tiller, MGK was because I worked here. This weekend, the film festival is coming up again. They'll have celebrities there.
SCAD Film Festival.
SCAD Film Festival. I'll be there again doing red carpet interviews. And it's been great. And I'll say this about, I will say this about the sorority though. The one thing I did learn is organization. Like you have to have a board to get stuff done because there's no way that a sorority they've been around for over 100 years with the exact same chants, letters, colors, everything. It's like, how did you guys sustain that? And it's because they have these strict rules that get passed down. And even when I started my club, I took on those rules and I created a book for every president to pass down to the next president.
Yeah.
And so even with this organization, I took the things that I learned in my sorority. And I don't take it for granted at all. I don't represent it publicly, but I think it's a fun story looking back on it.
It is a fun story. So what happened with the record label though? First of all, did you have a name for this record label?
At the time, I felt like if I started with a name, it would have been way too difficult. Where I lived, the area was Hampton Roads. So I just said Hampton Roads record label to make it, people would find me.
Yeah.
And I just continued with it that way. But by the time I graduated, I had gotten that job in radio. And I was like, okay, I'm getting paid now.
I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Now, did you have anybody?
There was one guy I was trying to sign.
Okay.
He was really talented. He had so many problems. Oh my goodness. He was probably the most talented guy I had who came out to the open mic night. He could rap straight without stopping.
Wow.
And then we had one guy who made a rap about SpongeBob and everyone loved it. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. Like, maybe I should have signed that guy because he already had a large following about SpongeBob. And I was like, I think this is where we're going musically. So also maybe it's good that I didn't sign him. And it was hard to get in contact with him too because of all the personal issues that he had. He was one of those guys who was very talented, but didn't do much with it. It was always a hobby for him.
Yeah.
And those usually are one of the best people to get, but really hard to book down.
Yeah, yeah. Did you create a business? Did you have a license?
So you don't need one.
Oh.
Yeah. I read this. That's the one thing I did do is I read a whole book about how to start a record label.
Okay.
The deals that they cut are so sickening. Oh my God. The music, worse than the car dealership. They will really rob you dry. And even the practices, they're still using the legal practices till this day. There's so many loopholes. I would say the majority of artists are not getting paid what they need to.
Yeah.
Based off these royalties. And the record label that I was trying to do, also not very good business strategy. Most labels, it's like an 80-20. They get 80 and the artist will get 20.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do it the opposite way, where the artist gets 80 and I only get 20. That is so stupid. I would never do that today. That's horrible business.
But I think your heart was in the right place, though. Like it should be.
Yeah, but where's my mind? Like
where your heart is. But it should work that way.
It should. It really should.
Because if somebody's making you a lot of money, then 20% is a good cut.
But then that person doesn't need you anymore because they're making 80%. So they could make 100% eventually.
How are they going to do the work and push their own?
They could freelance that person. You could become obsolete to them at that point if they're making that much more money than you. Like even companies, big companies, the CEO is still making like in the thousands. Most CEOs are not making in the millions like they should. And they're running the whole company. I think they just don't want you to ever become bigger than them.
Right.
And even with record labels, there's only 3 record labels in the whole world. There are 3. There's Warner, there is Sony, and then there's Vivendi. And they all own a bunch of small labels. Mm-hmm. So even if you start your own independent label, distribution still has to be between one of the big 3.
Yeah.
So you can't really escape it.
And that's a whole other conversation on monopolies. But we already established that you're not good at it.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm good. I think I'm good at economics. I just think my heart is a little too big.
I'm just
kidding. Now I'm ready to sell out. I've gone through it now.
Oh my goodness. All right. So you got your real job and then you stopped just trying to sign this guy.
Yes.
What was your first job in radio?
It was the college radio station was my first job.
No, I'm sorry.
But
your first
real job.
Yeah.
I was an assistant and a board operator.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get that job after graduating with?
Honestly, it was because I had that radio on my application, but it wasn't easy. I had applied to 15 radio jobs. I had interviews with Sony. I had 3 interviews with iHeart. Could you imagine doing 3 interviews with the same man? I ran out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
I went on this one interview. They had asked me 2 questions. I was asking them questions for an hour. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And when I got this job, I was just praying to the gods, like, please let me in.
Yeah.
They had the lady who had hired me, they eventually fired her for this, but she had hired, I think, like 10 people at one time. She was a menace. I would email her and I'd be like, hey, I emailed you on Friday. Just want to make sure everything's okay. Be like, oh, I haven't checked my email all week, honey. I'm still sobering up from the weekend.
Ooh.
Yeah. Being fresh out of college, I thought that was cool at the time.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, my boss is so cool. Like, she's rad.
She's drunk all the time.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm working for this radio station. I'm living the life. And after a few months, I was like, hey, did you get my email? This is not so cool anymore.
Yeah.
That was the only thing also with radio that I didn't like is firings are very common. Layoffs are extremely common.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone I've met in radio has either been fired or laid off. Working for a private radio station again, I don't know if I would do it. I really would be taking a big risk. I love public radio, even though it's very boring and you are really censoring yourself. And I love community radio. But ultimately, I want to stop doing radio and I really just want to do podcasting.
It is a great quality to have because fear of rejection holds so many of us back.
It does. And I see it too with really intelligent friends of mine and really talented. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
You'd be so much further in life if you stopped giving a fuck.
Yeah.
Really. So there's this documentary on YouTube and it's 100 questions with people who are 100 years old. And they talked about their regrets. And one of the things that stuck out was this old man. And he said, the things that I wanted when I was a kid, I still want at 100 years old. And I just never went after it. And that really stuck out to me. And I was like, I don't want to go through life being scared of anything.
I think it is important to be thinking about what you want out of your life, what you're leaving behind.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing for your community? Even if it is podcasting or talking to your friends, what message are you putting out there? It's something that it seems trivial on a day-to-day basis, but time goes by so fast after a certain year. And you don't want to waste any of it thinking this is just fun or this is silly or lollygagging. You really want to use your time in a productive way. And it doesn't always have to be at your 9 to 5. Sometimes I feel like work is a large part of our identities. And I know so many people and they just are doing their job just for the money or just for the health benefits. It's not something that they're passionate about. And when they get home, they're exhausted. They don't want to do anything else. They look forward to the weekend to do nothing or to go drinking, which is not a big deal. It's not bad. It's like a form of therapy for free. But we should be doing something if we can on our weekends to make the world a better place.
So I definitely think we have a long way to go because people are suffering. People in the richest country in the world supposed to be the dream to live here. People are suffering in poverty. And so it's hard because you can't create in those conditions. It's hard to be passionate in those conditions.
It is difficult to help someone else when you're struggling to help yourself. And as far as working towards a passion, 9 times out of 10, you might not even know it, but you are inspiring someone else too. People love being close to someone who's making a difference in the world. They feed off of that energy. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, I can't have it, but maybe I can gain it by being close to this person.
Yeah.
And don't lose track of that. Don't lose sight of it. Even if it's something silly or small, you don't know where it could take you.
Absolutely.
I know a guy who plays pickleball, and honey, I couldn't tell you anything about pickleball, but now he started a pickleball organization and now they go to competitions and they are touring for pickleball tournaments and they are making money.
And why don't I play pickleball?
Yeah, now would be a good time to start a fitness hobby. But it's something like just a guy who was just telling me about this, just talking like everyday thing, like, yeah, I want to do this. And me shrugging it off and now witnessing the journey. It's so cool. And
yeah.
It makes me think they can do it. I can do it too.
Absolutely.
For anything. And nowadays, there's hobbies for everything. There are literally people who go and clean houses and organize your pantry. And that's lucrative. I've seen it on TikTok.
Yep.
The pandemic has brought out a lot of hobbies. So even if you are a serial hobbyist, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep trying. Don't stop. I'm rooting for you. Write me if you end up picking one and sticking with it. I want to know what it is. I wonder if any of your fans have any unique or interesting hobbies.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Let us know.
Mine's definitely not watching reality TV.
She's so much better than everyone.
Or TV in general.
Wow.
Whatever, miss. I don't read fiction.
Okay, guys. Once you stop reading fiction and find a nonfiction book that you're obsessed with, you will understand you can never go back.
Yes, you can. I do both.
It's what?
Yes.
That is sadistic. I can't. What do you mean you do? Do you just like dibble and dabble?
Yeah. I'm usually reading like one of each at the same time. Depends on my mood, which one I'm reading. If I need to escape and just veg and just not really, the world is already too heavy, then I'm going fiction. But if I want to, if I have that energy, the emotional energy, then I will pick nonfiction.
Okay. I read a sci-fi book
Okay.
a few years ago. And that was technically nonfiction.
Yes.
It sucked.
Wait, it was nonfiction?
Oh, wait, no, it was fiction. That's why it sucked. Yeah.
Because it was fiction?
Yeah, because I was trying to sci-fi is the only category I have never read.
Okay.
And so I was trying to just cut through it. I said, I can do this. Took me forever. And I was like, this is so lame. Oh my God. Why am I forcing myself to do this? This is just torture. But I say that to say it's okay to do both.
Okay.
And I
Thank you. That's really what came through.
Yeah.
When you were talking about
That's what I meant to say.
is that I
Get it?
Yeah.
And I empathize with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I do ask one question at the end of every episode.
What does compassion mean to you?
Is that how I ask questions? It's through the lens of your experience. Get it right. Come on.
Jesus, so many
If you're
words.
going to do the job, do it correctly.
I'm trying to summarize the job. I'm trying to make the job easier.
But it is through the lens of your experience. Call back to the title of the show.
Let me check ChatGPT. I'm just kidding. I think oftentimes we have compassion for our sibling, our parent, our friends, but we rarely have compassion for ourselves. And I think taking this time to dive deeper into being a more compassionate person really requires you to take that next level with yourself. We forgive our friends and partners so easily. We should do it to ourselves. Be kinder to yourself. That's what compassion means to me.
I do think that self-compassion is a huge thing that we're lacking in general. It's easy to be our own worst critic, and we would never behave the way we behave towards ourselves with anybody else that we're in relationship with.
Amen. Wow, guys. This has been a really fun journey. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this with me. I don't know how I did it with her. She was truly a menace from the beginning to end.
Yes.
She asked me these questions with a straight face the entire time, staring into my soul. I will file a report with HR if this doesn't go unedited. Other than that, you guys were absolutely amazing. You're a rock star. Reach out to me anytime at don't laugh at me at Take It Off Show. Thank you so much.
Is that what your handle is?
Yes.
On
everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
And people can listen to it.
People can listen to the fashion podcast at Take It Off Fashion Podcast. And if you can't remember that, you can just do at Take It Off Show.
It will be linked in the show notes, even though you don't deserve that.
Oh, it will?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. I don't even do that to all my guests.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's nice. It's so much more work, though.
To link it?
Yeah.
To put a link in?
Because then you have to find it. Sometimes they don't even give it to me. Then I have to email them, wait for them to respond. I feel like just tagging them on social media.
But I could go to your Instagram and find it.
Okay. But how would you even know what my Instagram is?
I follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, but how did you find me?
I searched your name.
Some people have really common names, though. It's not easy to find everybody. And doing that is more work. But you tried to do it anyways.
I don't even know how to end this.
Okay, just you tell me how amazing I was now.
Oh, should I?
If you want to be a good host, you should usually say, thank you so much. This was like so eye-opening. Wow, I wish I could talk to you forever. And then you really just want to stop talking to them after 10 minutes. But that is the best way to end the conversation.
In all seriousness, truly, thank you so much for your time and for the space to record. And we will link to everything in the show notes to Take It Off podcast. It's also on the radio, but it's a community radio station, right? So unless you're in Savannah, catch it on a podcast streaming platform.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Instagram, TikTok, all the things.
At Take It Off Show.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
Wait, do you guys have a TikTok? Do you have a TikTok?
Yeah.
You do?
Technically speaking.
What does that mean?
It's almost nothing is posted on it.
But you have one.
Yeah.
Why haven't you posted a few dances? I'm trying to help you, honey. Okay. Thank you again.
You're so helpful. Thank you. Thank you for listening to The Human Experience. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends and family, share it on social media, and rate and review it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also support the podcast financially by going to my website, thehxpod.com, linked in the show notes, and clicking on Donate. It takes a lot of time and resources to create this podcast, so every little bit helps. Everyone has a story, and I'd love to hear yours. So be sure to check out the show notes for more information about how to stay in touch. Do good and love well.